the core stability and bracing tutorial. Now, core stability is a term that's often thrown around by exercise professionals with no real understanding of what it is and how to maximize it. Having a strong functioning core and the ability to use it when needed is crucial to maximize your performance in the gym and to minimize injury. When the core fails to meet the stability demands placed upon it during a lift, parts of the spine will be overloaded with forces that increase injury risk. The joints will be stressed and unable to provide the stability needed to perform the lift correctly, and of course, performance will suffer. Now, core stability depends on the activity of many muscles that act on the torso, and in particular those that form the abdominal wall. So, the core is composed of the abdominal muscles on the front here, the rectus abdominis, also known as the six-pack. The abdominals on the side here, the internal and external obliques. The deeper core, the transverse abdominis and the pelvic floor. The spinal erectors, which are the muscles of the back that run down either side of the spine, and even larger muscles that span multiple joints like the lats and the hip flexors. And I guess you could also consider the glutes an important part of core stability. So when all these muscles work together, they provide a super stiffness around the torso that acts as a solid base that the limbs can produce maximal force from. Now, the late Charles Poliquin used to say, you can't fire a cannon from a canoe. And he was referring to the difference between a weak core and a strong core. And I find this analogy very relevant. You need a strong core if you want your limbs to produce maximum strength whilst keeping your body safe from injury and moving correctly. So in order to build a strong core, we need to focus on both building strength in the muscles that we mentioned above, but we also need to learn how to brace them effectively. So the strengthening exercises that I would first prescribe to someone wanting to improve their core strength are the McGill Big 3 core strengthening exercises. Now, these are demonstrated in the back pain video, which can be found in the bonus videos in the corrective exercise section of the course. So if you did fail any of the core stability endurance tests, or you just know that you need to improve your core strength, this is a good place to start. In addition to building strong muscles that make up the core, you're also going to need to know how to use these muscles effectively via bracing. So a brace is a technique that we use to create maximal intra-abdominal pressure and muscular tension to add more stability to the core. Now, if you don't know how to do this effectively, having a strong core is not much use. You need to know how to seriously brace your core muscles and harness their strength in order to achieve total stiffness in the torso. So let's have a look at how to put these muscles into good use. How to brace the core. So the first thing we're going to do when we brace the core is take a big diaphragmatic breath. So this is a big breath that you start from down deep here in your belly, but not up high in your lungs. So you'll want to slowly breathe in, filling your diaphragm with air, filling out your body, and think about filling it out all the way around 360 degrees. So take a big deep breath in. Hands on the belly helps to get some feedback whilst doing this. So once you're full of air, the next thing you're going to do is lock down your rib cage by squeezing your abdominals and obliques. You want to create quite a bit of tension here, but don't go overboard and squeeze too hard, just about an 8 out of 10. Okay, so I'm squeezing my ribcage down, full of air. The next thing you want to do is bring your lats into the movement. So for different exercises, there'll be different techniques. So just say I was doing a back squat. To activate my lats and tighten up my core using them, I'm going to pull down on the bar. So this is going to create tension in the lats. They tie into what we call the thoracolordo fascia, and that creates a natural weight belt in the body's torso. So we squeeze down like that. Now for a front squat, it's a little bit different. The elbows will be up, and we try and push them together and keep them up as high as possible. At the same time, we squeeze the lats, and that creates that tension in the lats that ties in to the core. Now for a bench press, you want to imagine that I've got a straight bar here. When I've unwrapped the bar, I'm going to squeeze and I'm going to pretend I'm bending the bar. When I bend the bar, that motion engages the lats and keeps them nice and tight. Obviously, you're not going to be bending the bar, but just envisages that you're trying to. For an overhead press, the same principle applies. Overhead, and I'm going to be trying to bend the bar whilst activating the lats. Now, lastly, the deadlift. So for the deadlift, I'll turn around and demonstrate this. I will bend the bar at the bottom of the movement, and this engages the lats. So I've taken my big breath of air in, braced my core by locking my rib cage down. I've bent the bar, my lats are on, then I'll push and drive away. The bar will return to the ground, and then I re-brace at the bottom on a deadlift. And I should mention that for the different lifts, there's a different breathing technique. So for the squat, the front squat, and the deadlift, I'll re-breathe and re-brace with that breath after every rep. So at the top of a squat, and then I'll squat, I'll return to the top, then I'll re-brace. The front squat's exactly the same. For a deadlift, personally, I prefer to drive up, down, breathe in, brace, drive up. Now for a bench press and an overhead press, I prefer to perform about 5 reps without breathing. Now this can be quite hard for some people. It takes a while to get used to. You could try it with 2 or 3 to start with. So you'll take a big breath of air in, cause brace, squeeze your lats, perform your 3 to 5 reps, and keep going. And that just makes, it saves energy and just makes for a much cleaner lift. Okay guys, so just to recap, it's super important to have a nice strong core for strength training. But what's even more important is knowing how to use these strong core muscles to provide an effective brace. And what I suggest is that you go through the lifting pattern tutorial videos in this course as we go into more detail on how to breathe and brace for each individual lift. And remember that no matter what exercise you are performing, there always has to be some level of core engagement to provide a nice, solid, stable base to lift from.